Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44. So I'm sitting up here thinking, just, as my mind goes, um, about how I remember having players on the team, on the Laker team particularly, that taught me lessons that I still carry with me today in terms of how I assess players and the prospects of players and why I kind of see the game the way I do. I remember the Lakers had acquired a guy from the New York Knicks who used to play for the Orlando Magic by the name of Trevor Ariza. I'll never forget it. I was at somebody's house. I don't know whose house it was, but I remember seeing that name flash at the bottom of the screen. The Lakers had made a trade with the Knicks, and one of the names that came up was Trevor Ariza. And I just remember thinking to myself, why did the Lakers pick up this nobody scrub dude from the Knicks? He has been on the back of the bench in Orlando. He never did nothing. He's been traded with he was with the Knicks. He didn't do nothing there. Why are we picking up scrubs? I don't understand this. If I remember correctly, we had given up something of service for him, and I was just a little confused about the trade and very disappointed in the name that we brought back. And needless to say, Trevor Ariza turned into one of my favorite players of all time. I mean, just simply one of my favorite Lakers ever. Even though he was only here for about 5 minutes, we won a championship with him, and we've been always wanting him back ever since. Just never got a chance to get him back here, but still in this league to this day. One of the best swingmen, you know, of his era. So I said all that to say, I look at a guy like Chris Dunn, a guy like Cam Reddish, guys on the back of the Atlanta bench who aren't getting the type of run. And I look at it and I say, in particular with Chris Dunn, it's like I don't see a whole lot of difference between him and like a raw version of Marcus Smart early on. It's not that much of a difference in terms of what they bring to the table. Now, Chris Dunn did have issues turning the ball over, and I know he's had some knee injuries, but I see similarities in who they are in terms of like they're both big body guards who could play multiple positions, defensive minded, athletic, um, can't shoot. Like now, of course, Marcus Smart has worked on his shooting and has turned into a pretty good shooter, and I think going forward he's getting better and better and better every year. So I want to preface that by saying I don't think he stayed that way, but that's who he was in draft day, and that's pretty much who he's been in the league. Um, and I see Chris Dunn is the exact same way. I think the only difference is um, Marcus Smart has been on an organization that believes in him, and Chris Dunn has kind of been a journeyman, hasn't had a chance to kind of just settle in. And a lot of times that's what happens is these guys end up, kind of staying in the league for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, and they just kind of get caught in a role that they can't shake off, and it's like they end up getting traded a couple times, and it's like they never get a chance to really become who it is they're supposed to become, and that's unfortunate. And you know, a thing about it also is players who come into the league with star potential, you got to work out a certain way, um, and practice and have game experience in order to really be prepared for that type of consistent usage. It's like for example, like a role player is not going to take on the type of workout regimen and fitness regimen that a starter is, because he's not expected to do as much. Now maybe if he's a workout warrior, of course, yeah, he's gonna take care of himself regardless, independently. But in terms of what they're preparing for, the regiment that they go for in terms of the structure of how they work out and how they are approached by the team, it's not going to be the same thing. So if a player is asked to step in and take on the role of a superstar, they got to work their way into that type of shape. And the same goes as to work down. It's like you got to work backwards. So if a guy falls out of favor, but he's used to getting 40 minutes a night, and suddenly the coach doesn't need him no more, and he falls into that role over a 3-4 year span, he loses that that what makes him a star. That ability to keep up that 40-minute regimen no longer is there. Now he's working out to prepare for 20-minute games. Now he's working out to prepare for 18-minute games. Now he's working out to prepare for not actually being on the floor for maybe 2 and 3 games at a time with some DNPs and things like that. It just changes the trajectory of a player's career. They don't make the money, and life goes a certain way, and the game just doesn't seem, to be as much of For some guys, not everybody, of course, but it just doesn't seem to hold the same weight going forward. Guys just kind of get used to being role players, and that's about it. Um, and it's unfortunate because a lot of these guys really do have star level talent and just never develop because of this type of thing. I think of a guy like Michael Beasley. Now, a lot of what happened with Michael Beasley um, was just kind of the times he was in, you know what I mean, and kind of how he handled his vices. Um, it was looked at a certain way, and they treated you a certain way if you were a pothead back in them days. You know what I mean? So for him, he really, really loved weed, and he really had it kind of. He was kind of shoved aside because of his usage of it and his unapologetic way of handling it. Um, and it kind of hurt him. But he was a guy who came into the league with the talent of a superstar, and just didn't get the type of situation, the type of belief from an organization that would allow him to have that. So, I think about him and I say, man, if he would have gotten a chance to go to an organization that believed in him, and it would have been an era where weed wasn't as looked at the same way, like it was back then, I think he would have his career could have went totally different, you know. And it's a bunch of different little stories. Some don't have anything to do with weed, obviously, but just little stories around the league where you can look at guys' careers and just say, man, if you could take that player and just put them somewhere else and give them the same support that maybe another player got, they could have definitely gotten more out of themselves in their careers. Um, and I think of Chris Dunn is one of those guys. I mentioned Cam Reddish because I thought he was hurt and he wasn't on the same team, and he's just not able to get the minutes until like right now, for a plethora of reasons, I'm sure, maybe even good reasons. But the point is if he were in a different situation, voila, maybe a different type of situation for himself. So more playing time, etc. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that's on my mind, man. I just want to kind of speak to you guys in regards to kind of looking at the league a certain way. I think a lot of people, fans, casual fans mostly, tend to not look at players and seek new talent. They get to a point where they get used to the names that they've seen from the years that they're used to seeing them, and they're not taking into account that these guys are getting older. And in that same breath, there are players that you can find that are on the verge of being good or great or what have you, that you could find if you just look a little deeper, kind of looking at some of these benches, some of these players that don't have the big names, that don't have the playing time, that maybe have a reputation for being a scrub because the only opportunities they've ever gotten, they weren't able to show their best. You give those guys the right coaching, you put them in the right system, you find out what their strengths are, get them the right point guard, etc., and suddenly, boom, you get the most out of them. They turn into something greater, and their careers take a better trajectory. So that's what I want to kind of talk to everybody about. Start looking for younger players, man. Start seeking them out. I want to see them get more opportunities. It's cool to go for vets if vets are still able to, show what they can do. Of course, keep them out there. Look at a guy like Derrick Rose. He's turned back the clock. His conditioning is fantastic. He's shaking off injury issues, knock on wood, and he's just turned into like a great guy to have down there for a scoring punch, whether you need a starter or a bench guy. He's able to give it to you. So he does fit in that category for me as an older player. I don't want him in every situation, but he's still good enough to where you want him on your team for the most part, right? But when you have too many of those guys, you end up finding yourself in a situation where a lot of them can't make it through the season. The guys on the back of the bench behind them aren't getting developed properly because you're trying to cater to them as ex-stars. It's a lot of that going on that's keeping guys from developing properly too. So it's like we can kind of deviate from all of that by just searching for talent and believing in young guys and giving them opportunity. You don't get this far if you suck. Chances are you dominated. What you need is someone to take you to the next level within the level that you've reached, which is the highest level in the sport. And I think a lot of times maybe politics in the past have kept guys in uniform that probably shouldn't have been. Not everybody had real talent, to be completely honest with you. We saw actual scrubs in the NBA. You don't find that too much anymore. Most of the guys out there are very, very good at what they do, and they just need an opportunity to show it. You know, and yes, maybe some guys have glaring deficiencies. Maybe they don't fit the mold of today's era, and that could be hurtful to the overall game, if you ask me. But it's understandable, and it is what it is. Not everybody can play right now, but um, there's something to be said for the strategy. And sometimes, if you use something unorthodox, if you use a guy that can't shoot, you use a guy that may not have the greatest defense. If he can do what he does best, it could still help your team win. So I would just say, give guys a chance. If they're good at what they're good at, you never know. Maybe catering to that may be of service to you. So that's what I want to see. I want to see a better league. I want to see continue to see young players get opportunity, and that's where I'm at with it. Anyway, my name is BDF44. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out.